Well, welcome back to another session. As we finish the week of um, sticking with the same theme that I have been covering over the past few sessions, which has to do with the burden of performance on men and the focus on success and how success should be a pursuit. But most importantly, over the sessions that I have covered, um, I have tried to provide a different perspective of how you, as a man, can start your success journey. And we have been focusing on how to remove the obstacles that could be on your way, or how to avoid the obstacles in your way. Now, in today's session, I'm going to build on what I covered yesterday, which was about gluttony. I'm going to speak about greed. Now, greed is simply a desire, a very strong desire for a variety of things: money, power, influence, wealth, prosperity, and any other, you might say, need that one might have. Could even be food. Greed is a very powerful desire, emotion. So much so that for many of you who have seen the movie Wall Street, there's a statement in there which is stuck in my head. Most people relate to this, where it says that greed is what runs the world. The world is run by greed. I think many people have, especially those who are, say, perhaps born past the baby boom generation, we've been raised in so much abundance that we have forgotten of the importance of what it meant to have nothing. We have been raised with so much wealth around us. We have been encouraged, whether by social media or by normal media, to always think about what we lack. You know, I have a saying that there was a time when people counted their blessings. Today, these days, most people count their unfulfilled expectations. Social media is always reminding you of something that you do not have by presenting you with someone who has a lot. And so we have come to a place in society where, as a young man, as you start your journey from male to boyhood to manhood and to becoming a gentleman, there is the risk that in pursuing success, however you define success, that you might be influenced by the greed, what I call the greed vice. The greed vice is simply a part of you that has a longing for something more, but goes about that desire and creates an inner, you might say, longing built on a negative emotion. Greed is not a negative emotion. I do agree that in a capitalist society, in a free market society, self-interest is what motivates people to do what they do. Not greed, but self-interest. Not selfish interest, but self-interest. The problem with greed, and the reason why I am speaking to greed in relation to success, is if you can avoid mistakes, then it becomes easy to achieve your goal or dream. Most people fail in life because their motivations to start with were wrong. Their goals were not built on the right emotions. When you have greed in you, you focus on the object rather than the ingenuity, the hard work, the sacrifice made by the person to create the object. For example, you see a neighbor and you notice that they have a new car. A part of you desires that car, having seen the car. You desire the car so much that you are now willing to do anything and whatever it takes to possess the same car or something better. It becomes competitive. At the initial start, the person who owned the car wasn't thinking about competing with you. As a matter of fact, when the person perhaps bought the car, they bought the car for themselves. They may have bought it for all the selfish reasons, or self-interest reasons. But the key point being, you haven't seen the car. You develop a desire. Now, there is nothing wrong with having a desire for more. Desire is simply the unexpressed possibility in us seeking expression, full expression outside of us. Unexpressed feeling you have inside you, within, looking for expression without. So having a desire is perfectly fine. The question is, what is the motivating emotion? What is the vibration? What is the energy behind the desire? Is it positive or is it negative? And perhaps to start today's session, let me start with something that I think perhaps would define the overarching foundation to how to think about success without having the element of greed in your makeup. If you were playing a game, and let's assume that the game is finite resources. In this particular instance, let's say there are 10 of us playing this game. And let's also assume that the winner, or those who win the most, will be able to achieve, let's say, a reward for which the total sum amount is £100. 10 players, jackpot is £100. I haven't determined how the split will take place. What you find is that if you limit the resources available, what you do is you convert what was supposed to be perhaps an abundant experience to a zero-sum experience. A zero-sum experience simply means one person gains at the expense of the other person. In other words, if the first person would win £100 completely, then it would mean 9 people would lose, or the opportunity to have won. Well, they wouldn't lose the opportunity because they would have participated in the experience, but they would have lost the possibility of something given to them. It becomes a zero-sum experience. An abundant mindset, on the other hand, is one where you say we are 10 players and more people can join if they choose to. But the reward is infinite. If you work hard, you get compensated. If you don't work hard, you do not get compensated. That is a positive sum game. It simply means that people who work hard can be more than one, and therefore they can all get compensated. A positive sum game is an abundant mindset. It's not restricted. A zero-sum game has greed. That's the mindset. And therefore, it has a negative motivation. I'll say it in a different way. Think about life, your life, my life. At the point when we were born, think about everything you have owned or acquired over the years. What if I came to you and I said that you're about to be born again, and you'll be born into a family, the family of a king, and therefore there will be nothing that you desire or want that will be withheld from you. So you simply have to ask, and whatever you want will be yours. And I give you an option, and I ask you a simple question. Would you accept that life, or would you accept a life where you are the king and you own the assets? Now, this might seem as though I'm playing a game, a game of words. No. In this first example, you have access. In the second example, you have ownership. Ownership comes with responsibility. Access comes with provision. Sometimes with responsibility and some other times without responsibility. As the king's son, as the heir to the throne, you simply have to ask and take. Which is why, if you go back to the story of the prodigal son, the reason the father was very saddened and heartbroken, it was a simple one. He simply said, listen, all that is mine is yours. You need not leave. Stay in the kingdom and enjoy what is mine. Nothing will be withheld from you that you desire. But the mindset of the young boy was a greedy one. He said, no, I want ownership. The problem with ownership is it comes with responsibility. The moment he was given ownership, he found that he wasn't responsible because he had not made himself suitable to the same level as those who were capable of not just attracting wealth or success, but retaining wealth and success. So the key part of what I've shared so far is as follows. If you think about yourself as a custodian, and this was a profound moment in my life when I, especially my success journey, when I shifted from the mindset of ownership to the mindset of being a custodian, it was an easy shift. The shift simply went as follows. I did not choose the day I was born. I have not chosen, and I cannot choose the day I die. I do not choose several parts of, in many ways, my purpose or my vision is gifted to me. There are so many things that I have been given. I am in this world, and I'm here as part of an adventure. So I will see life as a journey, as an adventure, and whatever I come across, I see myself as a custodian. My responsibility is to make better whatever comes into my life, whether those be objects or things. So, for example, even though I acquire something, a possession, an object, an asset, an investment property, in my head I do not calculate as though I own it, because ownership is limiting in its perspective. Whereas if you believe you are a custodian, then it simply means, like a son, an heir to the throne, you can simply ask for whatever you want. Whereas if you have the mindset of ownership, then it means you have to work for everything you own. And if you do not work for what you own, you cannot own more. Whereas my mindset was a simple one. I can ask the universe. If I believe the universe will give me whatever I want, within reason, and whatever I have the courage to ask for, and whatever I have the courage to ask for, and the management ability to preserve and maintain, that I can have it. In which case, I shifted from the mindset of greed and ownership to the mindset of abundance and custodianship. I have access to everything I need, and I need not worry about what other people have. And this is important because it simply means that if I see someone who has something that I find admirable, rather than say, I want the object, I simply say, well, who would I have to become to be deserving of that and more? My focus is not on the object, but on the person that I have to become. Here's where it gets interesting. In pursuing success, one of the things you have to learn how to do as a man is to set a goal to become a person of value. Do not pursue success. That's the mistake. Now, I'm talking about success, but you do not pursue success because the pursuit of success sometimes can draw in the negative emotion of greed. Instead, seek to become a person of value, a person that solves problems, a person who is there to help, a person that can be relied on, and a person who cares. Wealth, success becomes a byproduct of becoming that person who will be deserving of the object that you want. It's very simple. You set a goal. See, many years ago, I came across someone who was fascinating in his focus, Jim Rohn. And Jim talked about his mentor, Earl Shove. Earl said to Jim, Earl was a wealthy man at the time. Jim, not so wealthy, actually quite poor, not doing well for himself. And this relationship began. But the most profound part of the entire relationship was a conversation, I think, that Jim addressed about his conversation with Earl, in which he said that Earl said to him once, Jim, why don't you set a goal to become a millionaire? But that wasn't the end of the sentence. He said, not for the money, and not so that you have the ability to buy things, but instead set a goal to become a millionaire for what it would make of you to achieve it. In other words, get away from the greed focus and the emotion of greed, and instead move into the abundant focused mindset, where you're thinking more about who you could become rather than what you could have. Now we go back to the definition of greed I gave at the start. Is this desire, an appetite for a variety of possessions, something that is very inward focused. It's all about you. It's all about desire, wanting more and more and more. Whereas, if you were to set a goal to have something, and you focused on the person you would have to become to gain that thing, what you find is that it puts you in a position of a giver rather than a receiver. If you want to be successful, think about giving. Now, giving and receiving are important. You have to be a good receiver in order to give, but you also have to be a good giver first, mentally, in your mindset, to be able to attract what you would need to go from where you are to where you want to get to. Now, let me say a few things more before I close today's session. Those who have a greed mindset believe in the zero-sum approach. Fundamentally, the concern is a simple one, that there is a finite amount of resources. And if someone has it and you don't, then you've been robbed of the opportunity because there is only one or two. Whereas those who have an abundant mindset believe that whatever they desire will be created. It's the same as, go back in time when people said there was only a certain amount, fixed amount of gold in the world, or oil. And we've continued to discover resources. Why? In many ways, those who have the mind and the imagination and the ingenuity have been creating more because they've had the intention, which is positive, to go and seek for more. Remember this, all of the wealth in the world that was ever created is still here. No one takes it away at their death. It still remains. It simply means that all of the wealth, since time immemorial, still resides on the earth. You simply have to ask yourself whether you want to be an owner or a custodian. Custodians get access to funds. Owners get limited access to funds. Now, we live in 3 levels of consciousness. Spiritual. We're spiritual beings. We live in a physical body. We have a mind. Here is why greed works against you. On the spiritual level, we're all equal and we have no limitations. On the mental level, we have all access to the same subconscious and conscious mind. There is only one mind, one body, one spirit. On the physical level, that is where we have limitations, and that is where we differ from each other. People who have greed as a motivation operate in a physical plane of consciousness because they only think things are physical. Those who have an abundant mindset believe that is the same spirit, and whatever you desire and want, you can have. They also recognize that it's one mind, and they can develop the intellectual faculties to be able to go and create the opportunities to solve problems for other people, for which they'll get compensated for. If you want to be successful, choose the abundant mindset. Don't be greedy. Don't focus on that emotion that comes with greed. You have to learn how to be happy for other people. As a matter of fact, how to revel in other people's success. How to be joyful about other people's success. Think about this and here's where I close. From your encounter with people and your experiences with people, this is a good way to test whether you have a joyful, abundant mindset or a greed-focused mindset. Someone comes to you and says, or you hear about someone who perhaps on your ranking of people who are competent, people who've worked hard, they do not rate very highly. Let's say on a scale of 0 to 10, you've been the one who's worked hard most of your life and you've been in the top, say, 20%. And then you hear for some reason that someone who was in the bottom 80%, way down at the bottom, has achieved something for which you've been working hard for. What is your immediate, instant emotional focus? Is it joy on their behalf or happiness for them? Or is it a sense of they don't deserve it? Or is it a sense of, oh, I want that too? We were told many years ago from the great writings from antiquities, do not covet your neighbor's goats or sheep. Why? Do not lust after other people's things. Greed puts you in a position which is a negative vibration where you're focused on yourself rather than thinking about the fact that you're part of this great universe and that you are a child of the universe. You have every right to be here. And that whether you are succeeding in the interim or failing in the present, your joyful future is one of abundance. And therefore, if you think of yourself as a custodian, you will find success. I'll leave you with the following statements, as I said before. Don't set a goal to be successful for what you would get. Don't even pursue success in a traditional sense. Seek instead to be a person of value, a person who is reliable, a person who solves problems, and a person who is there for other people. We've heard it in several ways. John F. Kennedy said it very well. Don't ask what your country will do for you. Instead ask, what can I do for my country or for the people? Said differently, Zig Ziglar said, if you help enough people get what they want, you can have whatever you want. The key focus is always on giving, the abundant mindset. And I'll leave you with this, as I said in the session ago about sowing. There is a season to sow. There is a season to reap. You cannot do both in the same season. You cannot do both at the same time. But here is today's session as an addendum to what I just said. Sometimes where you sow is not where you reap. Give, and it will be given back to you in good measures, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. If you want to be successful and you want to start your success journey, it's all about having the right mindset. The greed mindset will lead you down the path that is wide but leads to destruction. The abundant mindset often seems narrow. It almost seems counterintuitive, but it's long-standing, it's long-lasting, and it will place you in the frame of mind so that you become the person deserving of whatever you want. And whatever you want can be as much as you wish, if you think of yourself as a custodian and a child of the universe. Now, I hope today's session has been useful.